absolute cinema. Bro, the Champions League is crazy. I don't even know what to say. This round of 32, playoff round, whatever you want to call it, I think had some of the most entertaining Champions League games I've seen in recent years. We saw 2, 3, maybe even 4 ties that were incredible entertainment. The amount of goals scored was crazy, and the amount of upsets we saw, the amount of big teams that we saw eliminated is crazy. And there's so much to uncover in this video where I will be going over each of the games played in the round of 32, looking at each of the ties, looking at how the final results ended, and giving a slight preview into the round of 16. I'm going to start off by going back to the games yesterday and starting off with probably the most talked about game, Bodo Glimt against Inter Milan. Bro, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm about to become a Bodo Glimt fan. I don't even care. This team is incredible. A small club from a small town in Norway in the Arctic Circle. Do you know what the temperatures are like there? Crazy cold, playing on artificial turf. And they have beaten Inter Milan, the Champions League finalists from last season. The team who have made it to 2 Champions League finals in the last 3 years. The team who looks like they're going to win the Scudetto this season have been eliminated to Bodo Glimt. And on top of that, in previous games, we saw them draw against Tottenham. We saw them draw against Borussia Dortmund. We saw them beat Atletico Madrid. We saw them beat Man City. And now they beat Inter Milan across 2 legs. And they're not even playing in their domestic season. Their season doesn't start till March. They're currently in the off season. Pretty much the only games they're playing are these Champions League games and a couple friendlies. And look what they're doing. They're beating one of the best teams in England. They're beating one of the best teams in La Liga. They're beating one of the best teams, or they're drawing against one of the best teams in the Bundesliga. And they beat, across 2 legs, the best team in Italy. Bro, Norway has it over Italy. We've seen Bodo Glimt beat Roma in recent years. They beat Lazio. We've seen them beat Inter now across 2 legs. We saw Norway completely destroy Italy in the World Cup qualifiers. Bro, I'm about to start supporting Norway. I'm about to become a Norway national team fan in the World Cup. I'm about to be supporting Bodo Glimt throughout the rest of this tournament. I don't care, because the way that Bodo Glimt and Norway play is incredible. And coming into this game in the San Siro, they didn't have any advantages. They didn't have anything against Inter Milan. Everyone was always saying from the first leg, oh, they had the artificial turf. Oh, it's very cold. Look what happened. 2-1. 5-1 aggregate. Bodo Glimt win home and away. And it's not like Inter Milan dominated. Bodo Glimt had many shots as well. They weren't out of this game. They weren't. They simply weren't. They had many good spells of possession throughout both the first and the second half. Stats may look deceiving, but if you watch this game, you would know that Inter Milan, with all the shots they had, they never really looked like they were going to get back into the game and score multiple goals. And on the counterattack, they always looked susceptible to conceding. And that's what happened. That's how Bodo Glimt scored their first goal in the 58th minute by Jans Petter Haug. I think that's how you pronounce his name. This guy's incredible, by the way. He's scored in all of Bodo Glimt's big games in the Champions League so far. And once again, against Inter Milan in the second leg, he scores again. And how did it come from? A mistake from Akanji. A very, very stupid mistake. And I got to look at all 3 of the defenders for Inter Milan: Bisek, Akanji, and Bastoni. When Akanji has the ball and he loses the ball, all 3 of these players are standing still watching Bodo Glimt score. Where is the passion? Where is the passion? Because if you look at the other Italian clubs, you look at Atalanta in today's game, they had the passion. Where was the passion from Inter Milan? They deserve it. They got what they deserve. And that second goal was so brilliantly scored by Evgen. That was an incredible goal. And yet again, another assist by Hoj. And realistically, he's been one of the most impressive players in this Champions League so far. And Bodo Glimt have been one of the most impressive teams in this Champions League. And good luck to them in the round of 16. Looking at the other games, I want to talk a little bit about Atletico Madrid against Club Brugge. Because in my opinion, I did have a feeling that Club Brugge would be able to upset Atletico Madrid. As we saw in the first leg, it ended in a 3-3 draw. But in my opinion, Club Brugge were the better team. But in this game, they just weren't good enough defensively. If you look at their defense, they just weren't good enough. Obviously, Mignolet made a mistake that did lead to a goal. And I'm not going to say that Atletico Madrid were lucky, but they did score some lucky goals. We saw them got a couple goals off set pieces. Obviously, Sorloth getting the hat trick. And once again, shout out to Norway. Sorloth will be playing at the World Cup with Norway. And look at him this season. He's been incredible for Atletico Madrid. He's scoring multiple goals in the La Liga, in the Champions League. And once again, in this game, he is the main reason why they ended up beating Club Brugge. And to be honest, in this game, yes, I will say a couple of Atletico Madrid's goals may have been a little bit lucky, but realistically, Club Brugge never really looked like that threatening. They had a few shots, but in the attack, I never thought that they had the best chances. I think Carlos Forbes didn't have his best game. Chesoldi obviously got subbed off pretty early. He didn't have his best game either. And realistically, if you look at all of the attacking players for Club Brugge, I would say the only real threat in this game was Solis, who I think is a fantastic young player, but some of the other players just didn't look as good as they normally do. And for that reason, it was a great win by Atletico Madrid, and now they will be advancing. If you look at the other games, we saw Leverkusen against Olympiacos, and to be honest, Olympiacos had a few chances, but Leverkusen defended well. They defended that 2-0 victory from the first leg, and now they advanced on aggregate. And the other game was Newcastle against Karabag. Karabag did pretty well to score 2 goals, but realistically, Newcastle at home, they were always going to win this game. And scoring in the 4th minute and the 6th minute by Tonali and Joelinton, it was always going to be a very tough road back from Karabag. And on aggregate, 9-3 was a pretty dominant performances by Newcastle. And now looking into today's game, I need to start with Atalanta against Borussia Dortmund, because this was the remontada of the round of 32. What an incredible comeback by Atalanta. And me being a Serie A fan, a fan of Napoli, I don't really like Juventus. I don't really like Inter Milan. I'm not that mad that they were eliminated. Obviously, I am a fan of Italian football, so I always want Italian teams to perform well over teams from other countries. But Atalanta were the only team that I was really rooting for, because I am a fan of Atalanta, not because of I like the club, but I like the way they play. I like their manager, Palladino, who's actually from Napoli, and I like some of their players as well. And in this game, they were dominant. If you look at the stats, they were clearly the better team. No, they didn't have the possession, but they had so much more in the attack compared to Borussia Dortmund. I feel like Borussia Dortmund, yes, they had a few good chances, but realistically, they just fumbled in the final third. They just weren't good enough in the final third. You look at a player like Serhou Guirassy, 6.2 rating on FootMob. He probably could have scored 1, maybe even 2 goals in this game. I remember he had one chance where he had the ball right in front of the net, and he missed the ball when he went to shoot it. It got stuck between his 2 feet. Serhou Guirassy, a player who has scored 6 goals. I think it's 6 goals already in February. He's been probably one of the best strikers in the world this February. But in this game, he wasn't good enough. The other attackers weren't good enough. And they ended up paying the price. Obviously, I will say Karim Adeyemi scored an incredible goal. His goal was fantastically taken. Dropped the shoulder, cut across from the left side, got past one player, got past 2 players, and finessed it right into the top left corner. He scored a fantastic goal. But other than that, pretty much the whole game was Atalanta. We saw a great goal by Scamacca in the first couple minutes, and he was pretty good in this game. Then we saw a deflected goal from Zappacosta right before halftime, which really, I think, was an important goal in this game. I think his goal really gave life to Atalanta. It really pumped them up going into the second half, because if they went into that second half only being 1-0 up, knowing that they need to score another goal just to tie it up, it would have been very hard for them. But going into that second half being level was a big boost for them. And obviously, Pasalic scored not too long into the second half. And then in the final minute, Benzebaini makes a very strange challenge. I don't think he knew that the player was behind him, and he kicked his leg up very, very high, ends up hitting the player in the face. I think it was Krstovic in the face, and he gets a red card, sent off in the last minute. Samardzic shoots the penalty for Atalanta, and they score in the last minute. Absolute scenes. What an incredible remontada for Atalanta. And like I said, as a Serie A fan, I'm happy that at least one Italian team made it into the round of 16. The next game I got to talk about is Juventus, because this game was a roller coaster of an emotion. If you look at the momentum chart, Juve were the dominant team. They were the dominant team in this game. Even though stats say that Galatasaray had slightly more possession, Juve were so clearly dominant. If you look at the momentum chart, they had momentum throughout the whole entire game. There wasn't really any point in this game where they didn't have momentum. They had long spells of possession. They were always attacking. 28 total shots, 8 big chances, and 5 expected goals. realistically, Juve should have put this game to bed. Juve should have put this game to bed. Obviously, they got the penalty goal by Locatelli in the 37th minute. Then throughout the rest of the game, throughout the next 50 or so minutes, it was pretty back and forth. Juve were dominating though. And then Gatti scored in the 70th minute with McKennie getting another goal in the 82nd minute. And shout out to Weston McKennie, because in this Champions League, he's been incredible. He's already gotten, I think, 4 goals and also an assist. He's been probably the most impressive midfielder out of all the midfielders in this Champions League. But going into extra time, you would fancy Juventus to win this game, because how they were playing throughout that first and second half was dominant. The amount of shots, the amount of possession, the amount of chances that they had to put this game to bed. They could have scored 5 goals in this game. And yes, I know it was an impossible task. They needed to score 4 just to advance, which is crazy. It's really, really a crazy thing to say. But going into that first half of extra time, they should have put the game to bed. And the player that should have put the game to bed was Zagrova. This chance right here in the 6th minute of extra time, this should have put the game to bed. Weston McKennie had the ball in the box. He probably could have shot it and scored, but lays it off to Zagrova. He has a simple shot. The ball is rolling towards him on his left foot, on his favored foot, and he misses the whole net. He misses the whole net. And a player like Zagrova is a phenomenal player. He's a young player. He has great dribbling. He's a very fast player. He's a very skillful player. But the fact that he did not score that goal is incredible. And if he would have scored that goal, Juve would have been up 4-0. They probably would have won the game. But he misses the shot, and then just 10 minutes after, Osimhen scores the deadly goal. And realistically, it was a lapse of judgment by Juventus. We saw Gatti slide to the floor, and they always tell you, if you're going to go to the floor, if you're going to put in a sliding challenge, you have to make sure you can get there. Because if you can't get there, you're on the ground and you won't be able to get up in time. And Gatti thinks he can get there, but clearly he couldn't get there. Osimhen scores, and then Juve have to score just to tie it up. And once again, they were caught out on the counterattack, and a great goal by Yilmaz, who realistically screwed up a few times in this game, but he does get the winning goal. And Galatasaray beat Juventus 7-5 on aggregate. 5 goals in this game, 7 goals in the first leg game, and now Galatasaray advanced to the round of 16. Quickly looking over the PSG versus Monaco game, this was another very interesting game. And like I said in my predictions, Monaco are a team that have gotten the better of PSG multiple times this season. Whether it's the game they won in the Liga, where they won 1-0, whether it was in the first leg where they started off 2-0 up, or whether it was in this leg where they started off 1-0 up. They have the recipe to beat PSG, but the problem with Monaco is their defense. Honestly, defensively in this game, they were poor, and after they got that red card, what are they going to do? They keep getting red cards, and it's not helping them at all. Right when they got the red card, right when Koulibaly gets that second yellow, PSG scored 2 goals. A great goal by Kvaratskhelia and a nice goal by Marquinhos as well. And Monaco are a team who sadly just can't stop conceding this season. They've conceded so many goals in the Champions League, in the Liga, and sadly for them, it did cost them in this tie against PSG, because if they could have defended better, if they didn't get a man sent off, I think they would have won. I think they would have beaten the Champions League winners from last season and advanced to the round of 16. But some stupid mistakes, and we know against PSG, you cannot make stupid mistakes, and PSG punished for them, and now they are advancing to the round of 16. And finally, quickly going over Real Madrid against Benfica. Real Madrid won 2-1, with Benfica actually scoring first in this game. And I gotta say, Benfica were pretty impressive in this game. Like I already said multiple times, Real Madrid defensively have not been good this season. Asensio gets taken out with possibly an injury. Rudiger didn't have the best game either. Courtois obviously made some incredible saves, but Benfica had chances to win this game. They definitely had chances to come back in this tie. But in the end, Tchouaméni scored not too long after Silva scored. And at the end of the game, Vinicius Jr. once again scores the game winner. And isn't that so poetic that Vinicius Jr. scores the next goal to knock out Benfica? There's just something about it. With the whole situation, everything going on, Vinicius Jr. had to score. You knew he was going to score, and he did end up scoring, and Real Madrid beat Benfica 2-1. But that's the end of this video. That was just a little recap of the Champions League playoff stage, the round of 32, whatever you want to call it, because it was absolutely crazy, absolute drama, absolute cinema, and some of the ties were absolutely incredible. But as always, remember to subscribe to the channel, help me on the road to 8,000 subscribers. I can't do it without you guys. And obviously, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.